All right. It should be ready whenever you are.
Perfect. Okay, so I know we've talked about this before. We've kind of had this conversation a couple times, but I wanted to kind of get it officially all out for you. First and foremost, I would love if you could talk a little bit about how FLP came to be and the specific projects that you were doing before individually that led you into creating First Ladies of Poverty Foundation officially as the LLC, and then kind of moving forward from there. But yeah, if you could just talk a little bit about like the consulting that you were doing and your other various projects.
Okay, before we get into that, tell the world who you are and
Okay.
why you're interviewing me.
Yeah, I didn't know if this was going to be just session. I don't know if we're going to post, but anyway, my name is Brianna. I am the PR intern for First Ladies of Poverty Foundation. I'm a third-year communication student at University of Michigan, and today I'm interviewing Shatoyia to kind of get a better understanding about her as a CEO or as the CEO and founder of the First Ladies of Poverty Foundation, and just to understand her better as a leader, and kind of get into her mind as a creative as well.
And she also is might as well go ahead and say PR expert. So if you're interested in reaching out to her, she has her workshops that she does every month. I think her last one is probably going to be this month. But if you need someone to help you with PR, storytelling, branding, getting your brand out there via specifically PR versus advertising, which she's written articles on. So like I said, definitely reach out to her if you are interested, or reach out to the FLP and we'll connect you to her.
For sure.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So first thing to just kind of get into it, talk a little bit about your consulting that you were doing back before, and your different, I don't know how many different individual projects or individual things led you into wanting to create this organization. But if you can kind of talk about that and give us a
All
full.
right. Oh, no, what were you about to say?
No, that was it. Just get into it. Go ahead.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is pull up a few links because that'll also help me stay on track because I've done so much. So in short, though, before I share the links, I grew up in poverty in Louisiana, and I know a lot of people say they grew up in poverty. What I mean by that is people who were working multiple jobs or working period, or maybe just couldn't find a job, but let's say they were working multiple jobs, but had nothing to show for it. They were always struggling. You wouldn't know they were working by their lifestyles. You wouldn't know that they were talented, hardworking people by their lifestyles because they had no fruit to show for it. So for myself, I decided to dedicate myself to education. Some people, youth and young adults, maybe they dedicate themselves to having a boyfriend or to doing all kinds of crazy stuff just to kind of escape what they have to deal with at home. For me, I put my head in the books, and that was like my personal way of escaping what was happening around me, but also giving myself hope that I can attain something better through education. So anyone in my family would tell you I was very quiet. I was a bookworm. I say to myself, you can always find my head in a book, whether it was for fun or for academics. And that carried on into middle school, where I started my first business, because at a certain point you realize, oh, I need to do more than have good grades. I need to do leadership stuff. I need to do academic stuff. And of course, growing up in poverty, I didn't have the money to actually do it. So I started a business where I sold snacks out of the house. My mom bought these Debbie cakes that nobody liked, including her. And I don't know why she bought it. But they would just get stale and they would end up being thrown in the trash. So I knew at my school, we only had one day for concession. And so what I would do is I would be the snack lady. However, I knew my environment too. And I knew some people couldn't automatically afford the snacks that I was selling. So then I would charge them a quarter every day they couldn't pay me, on top of the charge for the snack, which I upsold. So for me, the inventory was free and I got all the profits, including the credit, which is how credit works now, but the interest for those who couldn't pay me. So I capitalized off my circumstance. All right, moving forward into my consulting business where I was tutoring my peers, and then so I started tutoring my peers for some extra money, kept the snack business going, kind of doing that out a little bit, and then did some leadership stuff. And then I started an academic behavioral program, which solidified my interest in mentorship. Like I love giving advice. I love helping people see their potential and see themselves as more than their current circumstances, and see and nurture their talents and gifts, and help them find opportunities to actually go forth and have a higher quality of life based on who they are and their talents.
Okay.
So that's high school. College. So around the time I graduated high school, I started a consulting business for organizations. So at that point, I was like, okay, I know I want to make change. I know I want to make a social impact, but I also want to alleviate poverty. And that was my mindset going into college. So I did 50 million, 100 things in college. And I was always that person who, no matter what the limits and boundaries are, I did not care. Meaning, I wanted to push the boundaries of what I could attain and make people push their mindset on having their limitations on me. So a lot of their limitations was more so projected on what they thought they could do versus what that it was actually about me. And I think a lot of times as BIPOC and minority, we think that people's limitations on us is really just because they truly believe we can't do something, but usually it's because they know what we are capable of and don't want us to know it.
Right.
So all throughout college, I went in with that philosophy, did 50, 100 million things, burnt out a couple times before I learned my lesson, and decided that, okay, with consulting first and foremost, the organizations I was working with, they have a lot of bureaucratic nonsense that you have to go through for change to actually happen. Same thing on the federal level with policy making. So then my question to myself was, what can I do to facilitate the change that I want to see in the world via BIPOC and minority, but without all the fluff and the bureaucracy that I continue to encounter? And then the second thing was, how do I also take care of myself in the process? Like, what does that balance look like? So years and years, left college my senior year of college to pursue entrepreneurship. So I actually did not finish my college career. Left my senior year to pursue entrepreneurship full time. And part of my decision was a couple different things. Again, bureaucracy, and realizing that that piece of paper is not going to get me to a higher quality life. It got me out of Louisiana. And it got me into the room with people who thought outside of the box, outside of how I grew up, but it was not the way to get me to higher quality of life, especially as BIPOC and minority. There's just so much we don't get in that experience in regards to leveling up in mindset, financially, and in regards to what life should be about, not just money, which if you've never had money, that's what you want. But then you realize money is not that thing you're truly looking for. It's peace. It's the ability to truly enjoy life. It's the enthusiasm for life. But a lot of times BIPOC and minority, especially those who grew up poor, never get a chance to experience that. So mindset shift, college was no longer my focus. It was higher quality of living via education, which I truly believe comes through life. So education system, I've actually been working in the education system for a while. My first job in high school was as a librarian. So I have almost 15 years of experience in education. In May, it'll be 16 years. And after college, what did I do? What did I do first? I was a mentor for Performance Arts Camps, the U.S. Performing Arts Camp, which is a nationally acclaimed organization. And then, so I was teaching theater, dance, etc. So I am a performance artist. I do believe in the arts. Moving forward into ITD, which is an Institute for Training and Development, and I was a bilingual project manager and mentor. Before that, I was the mentor for Reader to Reader, which is a global literacy program, and that was for like 3 to 5 years. And then, okay, this is why I pulled up the link. Okay, hold on. So Institute for Training and Development, GPIUS, which is a Japanese English mentoring program that I was a mentor for, cultural exchange program. And then I became a teacher. I became a paraprofessional, and then I became a teacher, teaching all kinds of subjects, paraprofessional for special needs youth and young adults. So my experience is super extensive, but most of it, if you really look at it, goes back into education, leadership, equity, entrepreneurship, and community development. Like that's the whole of it, even though I did it in different ways.
Mm.
My biggest project to date, I would say, outside of the First Ladies Park Foundation, was working with Reader to Reader, and being selected to go international in Costa Rica and work on a literacy project there, and the sole project manager for that. So I literally, first time traveling outside of the country, went to Costa Rica in this rural village, spoke Spanish 24/7, created these programs for the community, including faith-based program as well. And I think that was also when I learned quality of living. Like there was a time to work, a time to play, and no one really put too much emphasis on work. Like work was work, and then after that, it was family, it was living, it was going out, going for walks, and I had never seen that before. And I think that's now why I went from just financial stability and living paycheck to paycheck to focusing on helping people have a higher quality of life as well.
Right.
And all of that experience, all of those things, now is where the First Ladies of Park Foundation came from. Whew.
There's a whole lot for sure. And so, yeah, and that kind of segues right into the next one. And so, again, this is something I've asked you before, but breaking down the actual name for First Ladies of Poverty Foundation. And I know it's something, like I said, that you've told me it's, it's got kind of a multifaceted meaning. And kind of, as you explained, you have a background in a lot of different things that you started off doing from a really young age. But what kind of, I guess, birthed the name First Lady specifically of poverty specifically, and then, the with foundations. And then, of course, it is an LLC, but you can go ahead and kind of explain that word by word for us.
Okay. So this time I'm actually going to share my screen. So let me do that.
Okay.
Okay. So starting from these experiences, I think I always consider myself presidential material, meaning I always felt like I could do. If the people in power, if what they're doing is the standard, I feel like I could be someone who could top that standard easily, just because of the way I work in my strategic planning. However, you have to be 35 to be president. So I was like, okay, this is going to take me a while, and I'm not just going to sit by and wait for the time to tick and for me to turn 35 for me to actually to see myself as presidential and as an important influence in my community. So then, alternatives, like what can I do in the meantime? So going back to my experiences with ITD, GPI US, etc., I realized even on a ground level, I was influencing people to be their best selves, etc. So then I realized, okay, if the organizations and federal policy takes too long for change to happen, then why not just start with the people, an individual, a family, etc. So instead of being the first lady and presidency, I became the first lady of the cause that I'm championing in every capacity I possibly can, starting at the ground level. So that was the first lady thing, because as president, if you have the husband as a president, you become first lady. But then right now, no, we don't have a female, we have a female vice president. So, so if she were to become president, though, it would be the first gentleman. So, and I think, though, my point is to say that you don't have to wait for those positions to act in that role. You could do it right in your community. In fact, you are commissioned to do what you can right in the community that you live in. And if each one of us took that initiative and felt that obligation, the change that we want to see would happen so much faster and so much more significantly and more efficient, because we're working with our specific community. We know what those communities need, not the people at this higher level who is looking at it from more of an economic perspective, not necessarily an individual community based, and I dare say social lives perspective. So, I also forgot to mention, in 2018, I served as Miss Black America Massachusetts, and in 2019, Miss Massachusetts America Woman of Service. And that's this work here. So also those conversations and meeting those women and obviously having these conversations also influenced my work. and I'm all about women empowerment. So going to why is it just first ladies then? I very subtly was advocating for women leadership without making an organization about women in particular. But I do believe when women, and I created a course called High Value Women University for this reason, because I truly believe when we as women understand who we are, who we were created to be, and our influence on the world, we will realize you don't need to play like a man in order to have influence, the same influence or more, because we do have more. We truly tap into our power as women and not try to play like a man. We can make the change that we want to see, starting with our homes, starting with our families, and then, of course, starting with our communities, which one individual, one community at a time, we will change the world. And it's going to take women to do that. We've seen male leadership and we see what happens with women leadership. And I think more women, like Vice President Kamala Harris is trying to advocate for, more women in leadership will create the change we want to see. The men can go out and do the actual physical labor, but we are the ones, we got the brain power, we are the geniuses behind what's actually happening for change to really happen. So that's where the first ladies part come in, but we do serve men as well. Poverty, I think we've already talked about that one in relation to my interest in poverty alleviation via entrepreneurship and investing and higher quality of living and community development, which is a huge part of the programming of the First Ladies of Poverty Foundation and Foundation LLC. Why did I choose, if I'm going to have foundation in a name, which is a lot of people ask, and mistake it for a nonprofit, why have an LLC? Because I truly, and we talked about capitalism, right? I truly believe capitalism is not all bad. I think American capitalism has set the standard for what capitalism is to a lot of people.
Right.
But if you take capitalism at its core, it's not an evil, just like money is not inherently evil, it's what you do with it. So for me, you need money. I think we all know that. That's why people are vying for these stimulus checks and like complaining about the money. Money is important. You can't get away from that. However, it doesn't have to be so important that that's your focus. I think we've seen this year, rather, we've seen that the Republican Party often focuses on money, whereas Democrats, people always focus on people. However, the problem with democracy can be that people who are not hardworking and are actually not deserving of, and I say not deserving in the sense of not working towards, having these benefits, most people feel like they shouldn't get them. And which is why you hit rhetoric, suck it up and get a job. So for me, I don't want to be in either one of those. I think they could both work together. And similarly, I think I don't want to be just nonprofit where I just help the people, and I don't want to be just business where I just focus on money. I think they both can work together. So foundation is the not-for-profit values, focusing on the people, community development, etc. But LLC is realizing, us saying, we understand you need money for this to be sustained, capital for this to be sustained, for it to be had, whether it's social capital, human capital, or actual monetary currency capital. All of it works together for the greater good, and you can't have one without the other if you want long-term sustainable change. So that's where First Ladies of Poverty Foundation LLC comes from.
All right, thank you for that. And I guess kind of you started kind of getting into it a little bit, and you were talking about how that blend and that mix, and how in the past, I think when you're going through the Instagram, you said some of the actual on the ground social change work that FOP has done in actual communities. I did want to ask, because I know that right now most of your focus is coming into presenting the webinars and feeling that education kind of part of it, because with COVID you can't really be out there anymore, or at least as much as you were in the past. But I did want to ask, what has the organization done outside of like the kind of educational focus that you are the most proud of?
The most proud of,
I guess you can give like a couple if you need to have some space.
I will give like the top 5, because I can't say what I'm most proud of. Everything we've done has led up to what we currently do.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I would give the top 5. I think the first one, so number 1, will probably be the Generational Wealth Bootcamp, which is what we're currently focusing on. And that includes everything we've done in the past until now, except it's in this one full service curriculum. So it's not like you get the business portion and then you get the financial portion over here, and you get the wealth portion over here. It's all in that boot camp. So with this boot camp, the first thing is you grow a purpose-driven business to 30 to 60K in profit, not just revenue. And again, emphasis on purpose-driven, so social impact, making a positive impact somehow. And then you start online, but you can also take it offline at some point. So that's the business portion, which a lot of organizations start with, but that's it. And then you move into managing and saving your money, which is what financial literacy is. But you're learning as you're doing it. So we're not like teaching you and then we're like, okay, now go do your business. It's as you're building your business, you're learning all these things. And I think that's the best way to do it because every business has its own nuances. So you address them as it comes up as you're learning. Financial literacy, as you're earning. Most people learn about financial literacy after they've gone into debt and all this good stuff. But as you're in this program, while you're earning that money, we're helping you manage and save that money. So understanding savings, understanding discipline in regards to finances, all this good stuff. And then moving into, now that I have great savings, I have an emergency fund. Most people might stop there. Again, we're pushing it a little further. We're taking you into, once you have that savings, now it's time for you to make your money work for you. You've started working for the money. At this point, it's time for you to make your money work for you. And that's what it truly means, investing. So then we help you choose an additional income stream to invest in, and then boost your savings at that point. So continue growing your savings while you're managing this extra income stream. And then the last part is the wealth literacy. So most people stop at financial literacy and investing, but never really get to the wealth part. And that's estate planning. So all these things we've done separately. So we've done like estate planning over here, financial literacy over here. Now we just put it all together in this amazing program where you get the full process. And by the end of it, you have the generational wealth blueprint where you can add to it, you can subtract from it, but you have a solid foundation that if you were to pass away, within such and such, and knock on wood, but if anyone, whoever it is, were to leave this place and leave their assets to their loved ones or to a charity, they would be set up for success, which is what a lot of BIPOC and minority communities never really get to do, and which is why we're pretty much behind, in addition to our 400 years not being able to do that. So that's the one that I'm most proud of. And then those little ones, those little programs, the Building Wealth 101, all that good. I think each one of those programs that I talked about within the boot camp, we've done before separately, and I'm proud of those as well. Because again, that's how we got to the Generational Wealth Boot Camp.
Okay, just typing my note here, but okay, perfect. And then kind of off that, because I know that's something that's really big that you are looking forward to getting into through the end of this year. And I know, again, in the past, we talked about the tour. We talked about a book release for you, and a couple other things through the end of 2021, because we're now 3 months in, so you got 9 months to go. What direction is FLP headed, and where do you kind of see yourself and the organization ending up at the end of this year? And, come January, what do you hope to be looking back on and celebrating for the foundation?
Okay, so vision-wise, something I'm also proud of is we have a video where we talked about what we wanted, and that was made, I think, in 2019. And we've checked off a lot of those things that we've planned in the future, like the magazine, which is now part of the membership program, like the published works, which we're going to publish poverty research and some of our legacy framework in regards to generational wealth this year. The tour, so that was definitely on the vision board, and now that's happening. I'm very excited. So that's another thing I'm proud of. I didn't mention it, but the boot camp is a part of the tour, so I'm very proud of that. What are we looking towards now? I think just consistency now that we've created programs that people actually need and they're making a positive impact, and that really encompasses everything we're trying to do in communities. It's about the communities and getting into those communities. So that's the next focus, is to scale and get this program, this information, this community, these resources into the communities that need the most, starting with HBCUs and predominant BIPOC communities as much as possible. So that's the next step. That's the next focus. And we're looking to partner with various organizations, churches, community organizations, again, HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, to bring this programming to the people who are trying to serve BIPOC and minority and to those who need it most.
Okay, and then yeah, you're just hitting all of them, leading me right into my next question. And you, because you talked a little bit about partnering, with those various places, and I know that of course, FLP, your end game in that kind of sense is to be national and to be everywhere. And so, you're also looking to partner with, maybe churches who have multiple locations throughout the US, where you're kind of set up to, once you get one, you can go to all of them if you do it that way in the tour or just in general. And you do currently have chapters that are set up in, other parts of Massachusetts, other states. And I did want to ask, because it's not like you've got the pages on the website with each chapter leader and kind of, the little hubs for each one. But what kinds of initiatives are being started by each chapter leader, if any? And then what kinds of, I guess, maybe events, or are they doing anything in particular within each chapter that maybe deviates from what you're doing at the home base, or is it all kind of tied in together and you guys are all kind of doing the same thing? Or can you just explain a little bit about each individual chapter?
Yeah, so I can actually pull up one of the chapters and use that as an example. Because I think we often see poverty as like one dimensional, which is about money, but it's also mental emotional poverty, which is going to be published in the book. And I think everybody's expertise, whether it be home remedies or natural remedies, like we have Alex Williams who does hyperbaric or hyperbaric. I said I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but hyperbaric, I think, huh?
Is it like a hyperbaric chamber?
Yeah, hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
Oh, okay.
And that's part of health, but most people don't think about that when we talk about poverty. It's usually about money. So I think everybody, again, going back to do what you can in your community, starting with you and what your talents and gifts are. That's her talent and gift. However, being a chapter, it bridges those communities to the FLP's resources. So instead of them having to go and, create their own programs, we have the programs. We just want them to connect their communities to it, while also having once a week, 1 hour a week conversations about these things, where we go in maybe a 10 to 15 minute motivational speaking thing. The chapter leaders can do it. They can have their own guest speakers. I could come in and speak, even though the chapters are on the tour, so I'll go and speak anyway if they invite me to. So I'm going to put it up. So to answer your question, yes, it is tied into the FLP. No, every chapter does not look the same because every community's needs is different. But they do all get this information. Which ones they actually take advantage of depends on the community. And every community leader has their own gifts and talents. So they also bring that to the community, to their community, as well as the FLP. So let me share my screen here.
Mm-hmm.
So a good example is this Georgia chapter leader, Frances, who, when she was running this chapter in particular by herself, she was doing, she came to us as a partner for our alternative cash flow strategy. That was like her thing. So stocks, bonds, trading, and you can also see that workshop under our events page, our masterclasses page. But that was like her expertise. However, she also wanted to start a chapter, which for people who want to start a chapter in a community is an income stream. So you do get paid to do it. And she has her money talks. So this chapter, and you can also see the video of the first one that she did, where we talked about racial inequity in addition to entrepreneurship and business. She had an icebreaker, so it's not all serious. It's like you're getting to know people in your community who have the same interests in business or higher quality living or financial mobility. All these things that we do, you're connecting with people in your community who have the similar interests, and also you're connecting them to resources to actually help them get started, which is the First Ladies of Party Foundation, and you get paid to do it. So just like we mentioned starting a purpose-driven online business, that's what we're helping you do. And every additional income stream you get from working with us in some capacity, i.e. a chapter leader, that's an additional income stream for you. So you're making an impact, you're earning money while you do it, and you're helping other people at the same time. Like, it's a win-win situation. And you get to have these conversations with people who actually want to, people who care, right in your community that you might not have known or met otherwise.
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, so that makes sense. And is that you're looking at Eventbrite right now, or you were?
Yes, that was on Eventbrite, but also it's on the website. So if you go to the communities and click the Georgia, uh, communities and click Georgia USA, I think that's what it says. It'll take you there.
Okay, perfect. Okay. And then yeah, just to kind of wrap it up. So, because we've talked about a lot, and you mentioned kind of just the different various ways that poverty alleviation can be achieved. Um, and I know this is something that I've talked to you about before, and we've talked about it with like the way the website is set up, and I've said to you, and like every time you explain it to me, it makes perfect sense. But still, just to reiterate, um, one of my recurring things that I say is the kind of ambiguous nature slash kind of the feeling that's given off from FLP, that it's kind of not necessarily stretched too thin, but you guys are doing a lot of stuff in a lot of different areas. And then it's because of what you just said, because there's so many different ways to, achieve this one goal. There's so many different ways to skin a cat. Do you think that, or do you plan to, or do you think that right now that's kind of how you're currently focusing on, kind of picking one, and then once you feel like you've kind of reached enough in one step, going to the next step? Or do you still think that kind of reaching in all these areas at once is kind of like your best bet? So do you think, because I know you talked about before, like political involvement, because a lot of what happens in communities, it's, it can be changed at the policy level. So do you think that like educating people on that, and then getting into, or educating people on entrepreneurship, then getting into policy level, then getting into, kind of building steps like that, do you think that is the way you are going or planning to go? Or do you think that kind of the way it seems, at least, kind of offering everything at once and then just kind of letting people come through to pick and choose? Like, which way do you feel is working for you best? And do you think you may ever consider switching one way or the other?
Yeah, so I think it's both. And I think that's part of the problem sometimes. So I don't think organizations have mastered how to do multiple things at once while maintaining a focus.
Right.
I think that's in human nature in general, very difficult to do. But I told you about my doing a million things, gazillion things as a full-time college student, building a business, doing community work. So I think I have conditioned myself to be able to handle so much pressure, but also now having matured in the way I approach these things, and with my creative spirit, having a million gazillion ideas, I now have like this journal that I put all my ideas in. As soon as I have one, like if I had one right now, I would just like write it down in this journal, and I would go back to it every Sunday when I'm doing maintenance or when I'm setting weekly intentional goals for the FLP. So I have my journal of all these great ideas, and the ones that we're doing now are the ones that are most urgent. When people come to us, everybody comes to us wanting something different. So some people want to just get involved. So we have those options. Some people want to actually get started on that journey to generational wealth. So we have that program. And some people want to earn some extra money. So we have those entrepreneur opportunities so again, it's like, just like there are different ways to alleviate poverty, there are also different ways to go about escaping poverty. And I think offering, just like many people offer different courses, we offer different paths to that. And I think it's the same concept, but I think within poverty alleviation, like for instance, university, no one ever asks, okay, you guys have all these clubs and all these courses and curriculums and all this stuff. How are you managing it? It's pretty similar to that, except it's about community. And I think that's what makes it easier. We're really asking the communities to be a part and take responsibility for their community and let us support them in doing that, if that makes sense.
For sure.
So our community is built by people who want to take responsibility for their community. So I also think because we set that expectation, that's what it is. Because we've set the expectation that we are not looking to work with people who just want handouts, which I think a lot of poverty organizations get into the habit of anybody and everybody who asks for help, they're like, yes, come in, we got you. For us, and they burn out very quickly. There's no organizational structure. For us, we make it very clear, you have to want these things in order to work with us, i.e., you have to want mentorship. You have to want to build generational wealth. Part of building generational wealth is giving back to the community. You have to want to give back to your community at least. So if you, and a lot of people who are asking for help don't want those things. So then we are not working with those people.
Gotcha. Okay. So that makes sense. And then last thing from me today, because I know we're running a little bit over. But last thing, you have the chapter leaders in different places. You have different organizations that you partner with, and different people that you kind of just have partnered with over the years, from what I can tell. And I think a part of the reason why, to me, it feels like I kind of use that term, like being stretched thin. You have a lot of goals, and you have a lot of different kind of resources that that you can reach out to get them implemented. Do you think that within, either by the end of this year or in the coming, within the coming year, do you think you or FLP is at a space where it's ready to expand, where you get a team kind of working with you? Because I know when I asked you before, like when we did this preliminary kind of interview, I was asking, who does your social media, who's managing, the website for you, who's doing, who's heading up this project, who's heading up this, and it's all you right now, which is obviously wonderful. You're doing it all, kind of Mrs. Fantastic there. Do you think that FLP is at a stage where that's something that you guys need to, kind of up your caliber in terms of being competitive with other organizations who've got those kinds of resources? Or do you think that you guys are at a space right now where, or even, continue down the line, where you're able to focus on what you want to do at the head, at the primary, and then kind of be able to just spread it out into the other communities?
I think you're asking me to give away my secret. That's what it sounds like. I'll give you a little bit, but I think this is what makes us very competitive as an organization, because people can't understand how I'm doing it, and I like it that way. Okay. But I will share this. I will say we're focused on building entrepreneur-minded people. So a lot of our employees are independent contractors, but they don't have a salary. They actually get to see, and I think a lot of people in poverty are in poverty because they have become, for lack of a better word, placated by a paycheck. Mm-hmm. And I often run into people who is just very okay with doing their few hours and then getting their paycheck and making it work. For me, entrepreneurship is the focus. So I want a team of entrepreneur-minded people. Mm-hmm. And you can have a job alongside of what you're doing here, but I want you to have something that you own. And I want people around me who wants to own something, who is not just satisfied with a paycheck. Mm-hmm. So our team members, the chapter leaders, they are entrepreneurs. They are independent contractors. That is my team. Our partners, who come to us to offer their programs and their services, they are part of my team. Mm-hmm. I think my team is everything we're doing here is pretty non-traditional. So it makes sense that people will look and be like, how is she the only full-time employee? Mm-hmm. And all this is happening? I think it's because I've expanded my mindset on the organization and how we're addressing poverty. I've expanded my mindset and created an innovative way of approaching not just poverty alleviation, but escaping poverty. So that whole, those stages in the boot camp, that program. And mm-hmm. also, how are we running the organization, the team behind the organization? If you ask me, if you go to the community page, I don't even say team, I put community. Even right. That, I think, it keeps me in that mindset of this is the team. Like these are the team members, and people who want to be a part of this are able to join us as independent contractors, as entrepreneurs in the making. That's my goal. And so again, that's another path I'm addressing poverty. And at some point we may have, a project where we hire a social media person as an independent contractor but we're not going to do a full salary because that's not a huge part of my plan for poverty alleviation. It's down to the communities and their social media platforms. So instead of using ours, using theirs.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. And so, like I said, every single time I ask.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. But so, like I said, that was pretty much my last question. And of course, I thank you for going through all that with me. Like I said, every time I'm confused about something, you always explain it like, "Oh, that makes perfect sense. Why didn't I?"
And then later it's like, actually, could you go over that one more time?
Right, exactly. But yeah, but so that's pretty much it for me today. Excuse me, and bubble. Pretty much it for me today. But I feel like from this, like I said, with my whole goal, I was able to kind of get a better look inside what exactly happens in your brain, because I think that's part of like what just the disconnect that happens to me. It's like I don't fully understand how it's working up there for you, but when you're able to kind of get it out, either verbally on paper, however you do it, when you're able to communicate that out, it makes perfect sense. So I thank you again for going through these questions with me. And then I will get this draft up. And this is recorded, correct?
Yes, it is live, so I can actually send you the link to it.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, that is pretty much it from me today. Thank you for joining me on this lovely Tuesday afternoon. And I will be hearing back from you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for interviewing me and being an amazing part of our team. Literally, I am very proud of you and everything you've done so far. Also, did you make your decision on, are you in the process still?
For the Tigers?
Yeah.
Yes, that is still in the process. Mostly because I'm still kind of contemplating, like, do I really want to give up my job for the summer? But yeah, that is still in the works. Of course, leaning towards being able to get into that, to get all that great experience. So, hopefully I can consider a way to make it all work out. But yeah, we're thinking that's going to be starting for me. April the 1st is their opening day. So coming up real soon, the next couple of weeks here.
Okay. Well, either way, I'm very proud of you. Thank you for requesting to join the team. Thank you for being interested. Thank you for your diligence and your effort and your hard work. You deserve every opportunity that's coming your way. And I'm excited to see what you do. I think I already told you this, but I'm excited to see where you go. And how I want to ask you some questions, but I know we got time for that. But in relation to sports, y'all keep an eye out for her because she's going into, you can tell them better than I can, but sports PR, I'll link your articles in the description. But yeah, keep an eye out for her because she's going to do, I know it. I feel it in my bones.
Fingers crossed. For sure. Yeah, for sure.
All right. All right. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And did you have, let me go ahead and turn this off before I ask that.